Hello, it's Vidas again, and in this video I will talk about the differences between the mode and the tonality, the key basically. Some people even don't understand this difference, and that's why I'm doing this video, to show you the real difference between what kind of mode is your piece written in or what kind of key the piece is written in. So let's talk about the key. Obviously everyone knows the keys as C major, A minor, G major, B flat major, D major, all these keys from the circle of fifths, right? But the modes can be very, very different and very exotic or ancient or whatever, right? The mode is simply the system of notes that are used in this composition or in a part of composition. In a great musical composition, for example, composed in the 17th century, right, or the 16th century in the Renaissance period, for example, in most cases composers don't change the mode. If you start in one mode, you would finish in the same mode. For example, you would have the mode which has a starting and finishing note G, but next to the treble clef and the bass clef is only a B flat. Key signature is B flat, but the final note is G. Obviously this is not G minor, because G minor has to have two flats, B flat and E flat. So this is something else. This is a mode, right? And sometimes people confuse modes with tonalities, and if they see a one key signature, one flat, B flat next to the treble clef, oh, they think it's F major or D minor, right? And then they see the final chord as G minor chord or even G major, right? Then they get confused. What's happening? And it's very simple, because in earlier times, in Renaissance times, in Middle Ages, the first and the only key signature obviously was B flat. There was no piece written in ancient times with two flats or two sharps or five sharps, because the tuning system didn't allow that in keyboard instruments. So, for example, today we would call this mode composed from the note G with one flat as the G Dorian mode, the G Dorian. The notes of it would be G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F, right? It's just like G minor, but with sort of raised 6th scale degree. But it's not G minor, it's not really raised scale degree. It's not flat and it's not raised, it's just the way it is, because the keys, the tonalities were created much later than the modes. These ancient modes, they come from the Greek tradition, from ancient Greece, and in Greece they had similar names: Dorian, Lydian, Mixolydian modes, Ionian modes, these things, but they would call them differently than we today. So Greek system is really a different system than today's system of modes, but they had still the same names, right? The Dorian mode of today will not be the Dorian mode in ancient Greece. That's the idea to remember. But in any case, it's not G minor, and it's not F major, and it's not D minor. It's G mode, the G Dorian mode. So even in Baroque times, composer would write their minor pieces in Dorian mode. For example, Bach wrote the famous Dorian toccata in D minor, but in parentheses we read the Dorian, right? What does it mean? Simply that the final note is D, but there are no key signatures there. You can check it out in your score. There are no key signatures in original. Maybe in today's some kind of obscure modern editions they would write B flat, but in originally we would have zero accidentals. But the final note would still be D. That's the Dorian mode. And the keys obviously would be different. D minor would still have to have B flat, right? And F major still have to have B flat. And G minor will have to have two flats, B flat and E flat. So I think what you can do when you're playing pieces in Dorian mode from the Baroque time, in D or in G, sometimes you have in G also, or in C, sometimes C, it sounds like C minor, but with two flats, not three flats. So then you don't have to panic, and you simply remember that, oh, it's not a key, it's a ancient mode, Dorian mode, and that's it. That's what you have to do. The modes can be also modern and very creative and exotic. For example, Olivier Messiaen created his own system of modes built on all the chromatic notes of the scale, and he called it the modes of limited transposition. Right? It's not C major, not D minor, not E flat major, not anything else, but he built his own tonal sequence of notes, and he would use that in his piece or in the fragment of piece. In a great in most of the modern pieces, composer either changes the mode very frequently or modulates, transposes the same mode to other pitch level. For example, he would start in D, the note on D, the mode on the note D, and then after a few measures he would transpose the same mode from G or from E flat, from C, from any other pitch that he wants. That way composer is creating very colorful musical composition. Here I'm keeping in mind and remembering Jean Langlais, the blind great organ composer and improviser and organist from Paris. He worked in the church that César Franck worked, Saint Clotilde, and he liked these modal techniques a lot, and as majority of French modern composers do still, and they like modal writing a lot. So if you are into modes a lot, you would love this French tradition, 20th century tradition. Sometimes ancient modes are written even in modern music. Sometimes exotic modes from other cultures, from Hebrew tradition, from Arabic tradition, from Hindu tradition, ancient modes, right? And sometimes even exotic modern mode, artificial modes that Messiaen, for example, himself created. For example, mode of certain intervals that are repeating into the mode. One of them is not the creation of Messiaen himself, is called whole tone mode. It doesn't have any half steps, just a whole step. Whole tone, whole tone, whole tone, whole tone. So from C would be C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp. And then again C. Only six notes in one mode. And obviously a composer can transpose the same mode only once, right? Not from C, but from C sharp, because from D it's the same, sound is the same, because that would be D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and then C. All these notes that are in the C whole tone mode. So only from C sharp you can transpose, and it would sound differently. So remember these modes, differences between the modes and the keys in your pieces, and try to discover all of them. Think about how the piece is put together in terms of modes or keys, and while you're playing, also think about and label them. Write the names with pencil of each mode on the score. That's very helpful too. So thanks for watching and enjoy your practice with modes and keys.